Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Joe Theodore and it's an honor to be here with you today. And for anyone who has stumbled upon this video, if you are new, welcome as well. And I hope if you enjoy this talk today on Jupiter and Gemini, some late June insights, that you can consider subscribing to the channel. And of course, whoever you are out there, please hit the like button, leave me a comment, whatever your thoughts are. All that stuff would really help the channel's growth. And I know that there are a ton of astrologers and enthusiasts out there that are constantly looking for, new content, I guess you can say. And the algorithm really does not help a lot of us smaller YouTube channels. So any of that engagement really helps. So let's get right into it, and I'll save some self-promotion stuff later because, of course, any astrologer and teacher has stuff to offer the world, offer you beautiful souls. And if you want during the video, just start clicking down below, look at the description box. You can already explore some of those links and my offerings, my website, my Patreon teaching portal, which you do not need to be a member of Patreon, by the way, to purchase any of my classes. I do have a mini masterclass coming out in about 2 days' time, probably by the weekend of late June. And I do have a ton of other, well, not a ton of other classes, but I'm building up a nice library of 90-minute plus classes there. And my mini masterclass will be well over 6 hours long. But maybe I'll talk a little bit about that later. But I think I just said enough about all that stuff. But yeah, guys, let's just get right into this talk. So, to be quite honest, the astrology, as we've gotten out of Gemini season with that insane stellium after the new moon, and then after that first Capricorn full moon, now that the Sun, Mercury, and Venus have been in Cancer, there really hasn't been anything too profound that could be earth-shattering, this, that, and the other thing, even though on the world stage there's always something that is being thrown into our face. So for a lot of people, just to say this really quickly about the collective astrology, atmosphere versus the way we individually experience stuff, the transits, the collective karma is so much worse than our own individual karma. And the collective karma is greatly influenced by the transpersonal planets. We really see like the influences of Neptune and Pluto and Uranus play out. So think about all of the repercussions and all of the massive triggers that those massive planets have caused throughout the past decade. That's really the karma we see play out on the world stage. And then yes, when we have like Mars square Pluto, Mars is moving pretty fast as a planet, relatively speaking. But that recent square, you do see like sudden wild things happen in the news. And in our lives, we might get into a car accident or really get into a heated argument with someone and something like that. But it doesn't last like in a catastrophic way that the collective does. But so when I say like this past week and the last like couple, it hasn't been that, profound, as far as like massive aspects causing issues or, whatever the case may be. It's just because there's, the hard aspects aren't as hard. There's really not that much that we haven't seen before in the last couple of weeks. But moments like where we had the Jupiter ingress in the Gemini, which is we're going to talk about a little bit today still, but where I feel Jupiter is now, considering that there's no planets in Jupiter, considering it's really not making an aspect to anything right now. It was making aspects to Pluto at 1 degree, but now at the time of recording this video, Jupiter is at 8 degrees and Pluto is retrograding backwards at 1 degree and will be at 0 degrees pretty much in a week or so. Or maybe, I'm not really sure when it'll be at 0, but very, very soon. In the next month. So right now, Jupiter isn't really affecting anyone except for the nodes, I believe, like Libra. It's kind of influencing almost the nodes at this point, which means that there could be some karmic fate and destiny things arising the Jupiterian story and Jupiter and Gemini. But I don't want to make this video about the nodes, but I'm just saying, like, when I looked at the chart, and I'll throw the chart up right now, there is an aspect. I believe it's a square, right? Is it a square? I believe it's a square. right? So Jupiter, I believe, is squaring the south node, and I think it's squaring the north node. Again, I'm sorry, I looked at the chart earlier today. I can't really remember exactly what it was, but I said to myself, oh, look, Jupiter is not affecting anything right now. It is, yeah, affecting, it's being influenced by Pluto still, by trine, which I thought was a helpful kind of influence in whatever that manifested, and however that manifested. Some positive transformation that, oh, something just got in my eye. Wow, that's horrible. All right, I got that thing out of my eye. Sorry, guys, I had to do a little cut in the editing room. But yeah, the influence, that trine, that Pluto-Jupiter trine when Jupiter first ingressed, I thought that was a positive kind of feeling, like, oh my God, like I think we're on the precipice of something that's transformative. I think this is a very, I think a lot of us were very excited about Jupiter entering Gemini. And of course, we already foresaw the Venus and the Sun and Mercury coming to Gemini and then having a new moon. And I think that Pluto trine really influenced that moment as a burst of like, you know what? I do feel like something's going to transform in my life. We were very excited about that in a very spiritual way, because Jupiter is that planet of profound insight, optimism, expansion. So I think that ingress was very, and that trine from Pluto was a very inspirational, like optimistic, like, yeah, let's get into Gemini. Let's see what connections we make. Let's see what unfolds for all of us. Because the eclipse season and then the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and just everything getting out of Aries and Taurus, and now that it went into Gemini, like that was a massive moment for all of us. Now, right? Jupiter is not aspecting Pluto, I would say. We're not, because I give about a 3-degree orb degree window for anything to be truly aspecting itself. But technically speaking, Pluto by sign is still influencing Gemini. So there is that Plutonic influence still, but it's very weak. It's so, in my opinion, Gemini is not really affecting anything right now, in a hard aspect way. I mean, think about it. Saturn and Neptune are at 19 degrees and 29 degrees. And in Aries, we really just have the node, right? And that's kind of the closest degree to where Jupiter could be hitting, as far as an aspect. But Chiron is at 23 degrees. That's nowhere near where Jupiter is at 8 degrees. So, and then Cancer right now, all the major, pretty much all the personal planets are in Cancer right now. They're not being affected by, they're out of Jupiter's sight right now, just one sign over. So right now, Jupiter is kind of left to its own devices. It's kind of by itself in Gemini. And the only reason why I bring up the nodes, as we are in the last, we're at the end of June. And of course, as Jupiter moves a little bit closer through the end of into July and into August, we will see Jupiter get more and more and more towards the middle, the 15-degree mark-ish of Gemini. So already halfway through Gemini season, I mean, Jupiter is almost halfway through Gemini as of, a month or so from now. And then it will retrograde, of course, and do that whole spiel for months. But the nodes are really the only things that will get affected in the near future, by Jupiter's influence. So my late June assessment is two things. One is something to do with the nodes, right? So I think Jupiter aspecting the nodes is going to be bringing some kind of karmic expansion to the Libra part of our life and whatever that karmic destiny or fate is for us. And then, of course, whatever the North Node is asking from us as well. So Jupiter's influence is that of a teacher, that of someone who wants to impart wisdom upon us. Wisdom, when recognized, is supposed to expand us, right? To bring us truth. Whether that truth of expansion is something that's on the negative side, which makes us have a realization of, holy shit, I need to maybe change this in my life, or, oh my God, I've been on the wrong path, let me do this. Or, oh my God, I finally figured out what I need to do, so let me find a way to clean up my past a little bit so I can shift and pivot and do this. So I feel in a fate and destiny way that is going to be expanding, and providing insight into some of that. Now, when used in the improper way, like on the world stage right now, because remember, the nodes right now are a collective karmic point. They're a karmic point in our current time-space reality involving our own life and birth chart situation. When you place the current nodes, wherever it is, over the overlay onto your birth chart. But on the collective stage, these nodes are very, very dominant right now. So again, the North Node from the collective perspective is this fight for identity and individualism and nationalism. I mean, on the world stage, we are fighting wars and we are involved in conflicts from all sides. And no country is safe from this, or at least any major Western power or, Middle Eastern power that is combating, Western power, and Russian power combating, Western power. So again, this identity of culture, of individualism, of nationalism, America having one of the biggest political moments pretty much in our modern lifetime, threats of nuclear war, just all that horrible shit we don't want to talk about. Aries is front and center with that kind of energy, right? And Jupiter is going to, again, right now, I feel like we're starting to see stuff expand in that. Like, I've been witnessing the news. There's a lot of stuff freaking out. Like, the debates in America are about to happen. The first debate with Trump and Biden is supposed to happen tomorrow, as if I record this video. There's a lot of stuff going on in the news with protests and uprising in Kenya. There is, of course, threats of increased conflict and war between Hezbollah and Israel. Putin going to North Korea and, again, making all this noise. So, guys, Jupiter, a planet of optimism, hope, wisdom, teaching, philosophy, but again, it's also a planet that rules Sagittarius, which is involving global affairs, long distance travel, cultures, places, anything foreign. It is a planet of religion and faith. So we're dealing with holy wars and anything that has to do with religious ideology. We're dealing with a lot of that on the world stage right now. So involving the fate and destiny points, Jupiter activating the nodes in a more explosive, expansive way. And we're dealing with Gemini, which is all about communication, which is all about, mutable, changeable, unexpected spontaneity in air. This is where, I'm not worried, but this is just the fact of the matter of where we're at in the world. So how is this affecting your life, right? What was your eclipse story about? We can still bring up the eclipse because we're dealing with the nodes, and again, the lunar eclipse happened in Libra. So again, we're dealing with whatever was going on in the Libra story as well with Jupiter. So again, aside from all of the stuff that happened with the new moon in Gemini and all those beautiful things and those positive, connections and intellectual inspirations we might have had for ourselves in our life, and some intentions we wanted to move forward towards the Capricorn new moon and all that stuff we've been talking about for the last month. There's a lot going on involving your Aries part of your life still. You know what I mean? So this is why when we talked about the eclipse and all this stuff, and when we say like massive astrological moments stick around, this is what I'm talking about. There is still aspects to things that are very, very important to keep our thumb on the pulse. And Jupiter, at the time I'm recording this video, is approaching the nodal degrees, right? And the nodes at some point will touch Jupiter's degree. They will somehow meet and be more, in a very direct aspect. There will be a very, precise aspect between them. Instead of it being 8 degrees now and 11 degrees where the nodes are. But to me, 8 degrees, 9 degrees, 10 degrees, 11 degrees, those degrees are valid enough for me to say, hey, this is an event happening. And the second thing I want to say, aside from the nodes, is that not a lot of people realize, and this may sound a little bit counter to what I just said before, is that Jupiter, in a traditional ancient astrology sense, is actually in detriment in Gemini. And detriment is a term for it also being an exile. So when a planet, when the ruler of a planet or a zodiac sign is directly opposite, right? So Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which is opposite of Gemini in the zodiacal wheel. technically Jupiter is occupying a sign, or not technically, it is occupying a sign, Gemini, that is directly opposite of its domicile home. So technically, all this fluffy, happy talk we see about Jupiter and Gemini, like, all the new agey people on astrologers who, want to look at every single planet and zodiac sign like it's love and light, is completely wrong. I mean, the truth of the matter is Jupiter is actually quite uncomfortable in Gemini. It still will provide some of its beauty and benefic qualities. But the truth is Jupiter does not like to be too chaotic. It's not, Jupiter in an air sign is not a happy Jupiter necessarily. It is a Jupiter that can be unpredictable. It is a Jupiter that can expand us in ways that maybe spin us out of control, like a tornado that, a tornado may seem, when you look at a tornado tracking, down in a prairie in the middle of, America or whatever, from the outside, you're looking at this amazing structure of weather that we are in awe of, how this tornado funnel can even exist and just move almost gracefully to a point. Like when you look at certain tornadoes form, they look so graceful. They're like, oh my God. Like that's why some, storm chasers call it the finger of God, when a certain tornado lands and it just looks so beautiful as it's just forming, and then it lands and then it moves, right? It's moving in this really amazing funnel. But when you get in that tunnel, when you get close to the tornado, it is violent. It is wind and force that you've never seen before. And sometimes I think Jupiter and Gemini can be like that. It looks, there's a moment where, yeah, it's beautiful, and there's the potential for so much insight and beauty and expansion and, wisdom and stuff to come from that. But really at its core, there's a ton of stuff being flown around, and you never know what what things will actually get expanded. You don't know if the things that are expanding or the communications and intellectual ideas you have are necessarily stable or not. But the point is to trust, because Jupiter wants you to trust in that in somewhere in the chaos, you will find the truth of something important, and that's where I think Jupiter and Gemini is important to, really focus that kind of intention on. But the truth is Jupiter is, not really great in that spontaneous, like ADD, like let me multitask a billion things kind of energy. But that kind of energy is useful to really, kind of just be social and to be hyper, assertive, mentally speaking, so we can understand more things all at once, which is a very good analytical human quality to have at times. But in reality, Jupiter likes being in Sagittarius, and its opposite sign, where it's more, grounded and kind of stable in exploring how it wants to explore. And, I think you understand what I mean. So Jupiter likes the fire more than the air, because the air is unstable, but sometimes that is a good thing for us, because the mind, it's just a representation of the mind being unstable, which it is, but the mind needs to be, influenced in some Jupiterian ways at times, and that's an important moment of this transit to understand. So that's really just some extra insight I wanted to provide, is that now that Jupiter is alone, I think, it's really having it's having time to almost rest in the experience it's been through. I think Jupiter has accumulated a lot of karma, and experience in all of our lives. We're still carrying whatever the actions and the repercussions and the events that happened to us throughout Jupiter's transits recently. So now that it's all alone, it's kind of having time to be integrated and expressed towards the nodes, which can be completely different events, of course. But also, it's in this moment where it's just stewing in the Gemini air, and what does that mean for you? What is this showing you? So I guess this is just, some extra food for thought on the Jupiter Gemini story, which will be unfolding until, next year, May, I guess, of next year, I think. And it will be going retrograde. So again, keep up with my work here, because my next retrograde class video I'll be making probably next week. is going to be Saturn retrograde. And we're actually starting a Saturn retrograde on Friday or Saturday this weekend. I think it's Friday. But so yeah, I'm going to try to get that class up and loaded onto my teaching portal. If anyone's interested in wanting to take that class, it'll be a 90-minute class on Saturn retrogrades and what they mean, honestly, in the collective, and what it means if you're born with one. I mean, a lot of people are born with, now that I'm getting into the Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto retrograde classes, and I'll be making, videos for YouTube, very short videos to promote those classes, and I'll talk more about, what those mean in a way here on YouTube. But, those retrogrades, more of us are born with those retrogrades in our birth chart. Like I'm born with a Saturn retrograde. And, I'll definitely be speaking from my experience what that means. But so, that's something you can expect from me very soon. And yeah, guys, just I hope you stick around, of course. And if you're new, please consider subscribing once again. And yeah, my friends, that's all I have for you today. So I'll see you next time.